Hello students, this is Santosh Jude from Parkchand Mathematics Institute, and in this lecture I will take you through the solutions of NTA's test paper number 12. Let us begin. If f of x is the maximum of x by n, comma, mod of sine pi x, then for n being a natural number, this function has maximum points of non-differentiability in this domain, then n cannot be. Okay, so first let us see how will this function look like. How is this mod of sine pi x going to be like, and our domain is only from 0 to pi by 4, sorry 0 to 4. So let us consider this is 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now in this case, sine of pi x, when it becomes 1 it is sine pi, 0.5 it is sine pi by 2, so it is basically sine curve with a period pi. Now since it is mod of sine x, it won't go down but it will continue the same way in each area, right? In it is like rectified alternating current, right? This becomes direct current. Okay. So now then there is a second function, y is equal to, let us say this is sine of mod sine x. Now I am going to draw how is y is x by n going to be. Now it's very simple. This is a line passing through origin with slope 1 by n, right? So it's basically some line, it will be like this, let us say. Okay, now they have given the function itself, the function f of x is the maximum of these two. Okay, so the actual function we have to look at is the maximum between the line and the sine x curve. So in this region the maximum will be here, and in this region the maximum is like this, and it will continue. This will always be greater than the sine curves, right? Sine's maximum value is 1 only, so this line will go on increasing. So in this curve, how many points of non-differentiability do we have? We have 1 point of non-differentiability. Here we have a sharp point. There are quite a few problems like this that we are doing in every paper, right? So remember, there is 1 point of non-differentiability. So if this point is non-differentiable, how many such points can there exist in this domain for different values of n, and what is the maximum value? Now it's not very difficult. The maximum can be only when it cuts through all these curves, something like this. If the line cuts through everything, then see what will be the maximum function. It will be like the new green. Okay, this is maximum in this region, and here this line is maximum, and again the sine is maximum here, and again here the line is maximum. In this area again the sine curve is maximum, here the line is maximum. In this curve sine is maximum, here line is maximum, and it may cut further, but we are looking only in this region till x is equal to 4. So you see it will have 1, 2, this points. Let me mark it in black for clarity. So there is 1 point here, another point here, then 1 point here, 1 point here. All these are non-differentiable points, not discontinuity. They are all continuous at these points but non-differentiable at these points. So you see any line that cuts through all the sine, half sine waves will have 7 non-differentiable points. So maximum is 7 points that are non-differentiable. Okay. So now the question is, for which value of n this condition would begin to become violated. So let us say, how will that happen? So we have to find that line. Imagine that particular line from where the number of discontinuities become, the number of non-differentiable points becomes 6, or slightly less than 6, less than 7 basically. So can we get 6? We can never get 6 because any line will cut through these two. But imagine if I draw a line like this, let us say this is the limiting line. from here to this point, tangent at this point, that is, it is going on like this, and it is tangent at this point here. Okay, now this will be 3.5, and this maximum value of sine is 1. So this point is 3.5 comma 1. Okay, now if there is a line like this, now you see it has only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points of non-differentiability, and this won't be a non-differentiable point because from here on the curve is smooth, going to be smooth. So anything below this, it will cut at 7 points. Anything above this will cut at a fewer number of points. It may cut at 5. Then if you go further above, it will only cut at 3. Then further above, it will cut only at 1, and so on. Therefore, this is the limiting line. This limiting line you can find easily. Okay, it is passing through the origin, and it is passing through also 3.5 comma 1. So how to find such a line? This line will be of the form y is equal to y minus y1, 0 is equal to m into you have to find m, 2-point form. This is basically 2-point form. Y minus 0 by, let us say, 1 minus 0 will be x minus 0 by 3.5 minus 0. X minus x1 by x2 minus x1 is y minus y1 by y2 minus y1. This would give us y is x by 3.5. Okay, so the slope of this line is 1 by 3.5. Now if the slope of the blue line is greater than this black line, it won't have 7 discontinuities. So the condition should be 1 by n should be greater than or equal to, should be less than the slope of this line. The blue line should always be less than or equal to the slope of the black line. This means n should be always greater than or equal to 3.5. So the possible values of the integers n is only from 4, 5, 6 onwards. Natural numbers. N has to be a natural number, right? Not even an integer, natural number. Therefore, 4, 5, 6 are all allowed, but 2 cannot be allowed. So n cannot be 2. It's a very simple problem. Draw the diagram quickly and find how many points it cuts, and then see the limiting case. Question number 2. The value of the expression 2 times sine of 1, sine of 2, sine of 3 up to sine of 89 by 2 times cos of 1, cos of 2, cos of 3 up to cos 44 plus 1 is equal to. Let us simplify the numerator. That is, I am taking this term 2 sine 1 plus sine 2 plus and so on up to the last 2 terms are going to be sine 88, sine 89. Let us combine 1 and 89. What would you get for sine 1 plus sine 89? This would become, according to the equation, 2 times sine of a plus b by 2, okay, and cos of a minus b by 2. For convenience, I am taking this as a, this as b, let us say. Okay, so this is a plus b by 2, a minus b by 2. Wouldn't matter even if you take this as b, this as a. Cos is an even function. So this is 2 sine 45 cos 44. Just to illustrate this further, let us try sine 2 plus sine 88. The same way it becomes sine 2 sine 88 plus 2 by 2 cos 88 minus 2 by 2. So this is again 2 sine 88 plus 2 is 90, 45 cos of 43. Okay. Now substitute it in this bracket. 2 into 2 sine 45. So what I mean is, that is 1 and 89 can be combined like this. 2 and 84 can be combined. 3 and 87 and so on, right? Up to 44 and 46. 44 and 46 can be combined, and 45 you leave it as sine 45. In between there is going to be a sine 45, right? So you leave it there. So first I get cos 44 And imagine the second term I get 2 sine 45 cos 43. Then you can go on till you get 2 sine 45 cos 1, that will be 44 and 46, and the next term will be just that 1 sine 45 that is left. What I mean is, here in between the middlemost terms will be like this: sine 44, sine 45 and sine 46, right? It will be here somewhere in between. 44 and 46 you combine, you will get this term, and this sine 45 alone remains, you keep it as sine 45. Now if you see, there is sine 45 common in all the terms. If I take that term common out, I get 2 sine 45, and inside the bracket I have 2 cos 44, 2 cos 43 up to 2 cos 41, 2 cos 1 and 1. So basically 2 cos 44, 2 cos 43 up to 2 cos 1, and then I have just 1. So this can even be simplified as 2 sine 45 in the bracket 2 times cos 1 plus cos 2 plus cos 3 plus and so on up to cos 44 plus 1. Now this is the numerator, and if you see, the denominator is exactly this term. So when you divide numerator by denominator, you will cancel this whole term. Let me write it down explicitly. That is this 2 cos 1 cos 2 up to cos 44 plus 1, and the denominator I have the same 2 cos 1 cos 2 up to cos 44 plus 1. It is the same form. Cancel these two terms, I get only 2 sine 45. And what is 2 sine 45? 2 times 1 by root 2, root 2. So the answer is option A, root 2. Very simple. Just based on sine A plus sine B form. Let us go to question number 3. A bit interesting. The sum of all real values of x satisfying the equation x squared minus 5x plus 5 raised to x squared plus 4x minus 60 is 0 is. Now let us see here. When will a to the power b equal 1? This is when a is not equal to 0 and b is equal to 0, right? This is one case. If b is 0, this is going to be 1 for any number here. Okay? If a is 1 and b is any number except infinity, let us say that's indeterminate, it will be 1, second case. Can you think of any other cases when this can be? The third case actually is when a is minus 1 and b is an even integer, an even number basically, minus 1 squared, minus 1 power 4 or minus 1 power minus 4, all of those. So there are 3 cases. You take this as a and this as b. So using these 3 cases, let us try to find what will be the values. Okay. Now first case, a should not be 0, b should be 0. This implies I am taking my a as x squared minus 5x plus 5 and b as x squared minus plus 4x minus 60. So this implies using this x squared plus 4x minus 60 is 0. What are the roots? It can be x 60 is 12 5s are 10 6 are 60 plus 10 and minus 6. So I get x is equal to minus x minus 6. X is minus 10 and 6 as 2 roots. Now we have to check whether a is not equal to 0. Okay. If I put minus 10 in a is x squared minus 5x plus 5. A at minus 10 would be 100 plus 50 plus 5, 155, not 0. So minus 10 is valid. And a at 6 is going to be 36 minus 30 plus 5. Now this is also 11. It is also not 0. Right? So a of minus 10 and a of 6. Right. So let us substitute, what I mean is that minus 10 and 6 are valid values for x. So keep these two numbers. Let us go to the second case. A is 1 and b is a real number. When a is 1 and b is a real number, See, b is always going to be a real number, there's no doubt in that. So only a is 1. A is 1 gives x squared minus 5x plus 4 is 0, or x minus 1 into x minus 4 is 0, which implies x can be 1 or 4. For x is 1 or 4, this is going to be real number, so no worries at all. So both are valid values. Third case, a is minus 1 and b is even integer. Okay, so here a is x squared minus 5x plus 5 is equal to minus 1. This would give me x squared minus 5x plus 6 is 0, or x becomes x minus 2 and x minus 3 is 0. X becomes 2 or 3. Now let us see what will happen to b. B we know is x squared minus 4x plus 4x minus 60. Now b for 2 will give me 4 plus 8 minus 60, which is an even integer. B at 3 is going to give me 9 plus 12 minus 60, which is minus 39, an odd integer. So excess 3 will result in b becoming odd. So this is not allowed. Excess 2 is allowed. So excess 2 is the only valid thing. This no. 3 no. Therefore all the values of x, there was the sum of all real values of x. So minus 10, 6. Sum of all values of x is minus 10 plus 6. And then I have plus 1 plus 4 plus 2. So this gives me 6 plus 4, 13 minus 10, which is 3. Okay. So answer is 3, option C. Very interesting. 3 cases. If this is not 0 and if b is 0. The second thing is if this is 1 and b is any real number. Third is if this is minus 1 and this is an even integer. Fourth question. Another question based on binomial coefficients. They are asking what is the value of C0 plus C1, C2, etc. etc. As I told you, even in the previous question paper, I think there was a problem based on this. The starting point is to take 1 plus x power n. This is given as nc0 plus nc1x plus nc2x squared plus and so on up to ncn x power n. Here you put x is equal to minus 1. In fact, this is what they have given as c0 plus c1x plus c2x squared. Okay, they are using the convention cn is equal to cr is equal to ncr. Sorry, just cn. Put x is equal to minus 1. What happens? 1 minus 1 the whole power n is c0 minus c1 plus c2, no, because it's even power, then minus c3 plus and so on up to cn into minus 1 power n. The left hand side is 0. So the required sum is 0. So this whole thing is equal to 0. Option C. Very simple question. Question number 5. Now this is interesting. F of x is cos x, cos 2x, cos 4x, cos 8x, cos 16x. Find f dash of pi by 4. Now the differentiation of a product of 5 functions, no? So the idea is usually you keep 4 functions constant. That is, you keep cos x, cos 2x, cos 4x, cos 8x and differentiate this. 16 cos 16x. If I differentiate, I get minus 16 sin 16x. Plus, in the next one, you keep everything else constant and differentiate this. So you get minus sin 8x cos 16x. I am telling you this is a bit lengthy. I'll show you this method as well as another easy method to do this. Then the third term, you keep everything constant except differentiate this term. Okay, so cos 8x and cos 16x remain. The fourth term will be differentiate this, keep everything else constant. So minus 2 sin 2x and this remains cos 4x, cos 8x, cos 16x. And finally differentiate the first term, it is minus sin x cos 2x, cos 4x, cos 8x, cos 16x. Okay, so here this is f dash of x. If you substitute x as pi by 4, now you can eliminate it very quickly. See, if x is pi by 4, sin 8x, sin 14 will be sin 4 pi. So this will become 0. Sin 8 pi will be 0. This would be 0. Cos 2 pi, see cos 2x will be cos pi by 2. When x is pi by 4, this is pi by 2. And this term will all be zeros. Here again this cos 2 pi by 2 will be. So in all these, only this term will remain. You know why? Because here cos x for pi by 4 is cos pi by 4. And then here I have minus 2 sin pi by 2. And the rest are cos pi. Here I have cos 2 pi. And here I'll have cos 4 pi. Now all this is minus 1, 1, 1. This is like minus 2, sin pi by 2 is 1. And then cos pi by 4 is 1 by root 2. So eventually I get root 2, option A. Okay. Now this is a bit messy, not very neat as such. So there is another quicker method. If you realize that f of x, which is cos x, cos 2x, cos 4x, cos 8x, cos 16x, you multiply and divide it by sin x. Okay? If I multiply and divide by sin x, this sin x cos x can be written as sin 2x by 2. So let me write that 1 by 2 here. Cos 4x, cos 8x, cos 16x by sin x. Now if you combine these two, this becomes sin 4x by 2. I got another by 2 here and sin 4x, cos 4x, cos 8x, cos 16x by sin x. Now if you combine these two, you get sin 8x by 2, right? And then if you combine these two, you will get sin 16x by 4 it becomes. And then combine these two, you will get sin 32x by 8. So doing it all together, you get 1 by 32 sin 32x by sin x in the denominator. Now this is easier to differentiate. If this is f of x, if I do f dash of x, what is the rule? Keep the denominator constant. So 32 sin x is there. Keep the denominator and differentiate the numerator. So that becomes 32 cos 32x. And then keep the numerator constant, that is keep sin 32x constant, and differentiate the denominator, becomes minus cos x. So there is a minus here, minus cos x. Now you substitute x is equal to pi by 4 here. If you put x is pi by 4, it is sin pi by 4 into 32 cos 8 pi minus sin 8 pi minus into minus, or I can say plus, no? So this part I can write as plus sin 32 pi, 38 pi, sin 8 pi cos pi by 4. The whole thing by 32 sin pi by 4. Now this is 0, sin 8 pi 0, this is 1. So I get in the end from all this, sin pi by 4 is 1 by 2, 1 by root 2 into 32 by again 32 sin pi by 4, sin pi by 4 squared. If I differentiate, I get squared into 1 by 2. So this 32 and 32 are gone, and I get 2 by root 2, which is root 2 again. The same answer. You do it whichever way you want. This is simple but lengthy. This is a little more elegant. Be careful with the differentiation and all. So the answer is the same, root 2. For two statements P and Q, the logical statement P implies Q and Q implies not P is equivalent to. Now, of course, there are two ways to do this. One thing is to find the truth table of the whole thing and then compare which of it matches. That is a direct way. Let me show you how to do that. So P and Q, right? So true, 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 false, false, true, false, false. So, and then let us just write not P also here. That will help us later. So let this be false, false, true, true. Okay. First thing is P implies Q. If P implies Q, true and true is true, true and false is false. These are true. Now what about Q implies not P? Q implies not P. True implies false is false. False. This is true. This is true, and the last one is also true. Sorry, I am saying true and in implication, true implies false is true. Okay, false, false is true, true, and true. Now you have to do the AND of these two, right? Do the AND of this and this. That would give me AND is false here, because AND when one is false, it is false. Both are true, it is true, then this is also true. Now if you see this final answer, it matches exactly not P. So the answer is not P. Very simple. You've done with it using the normal operations, normal truth table operations. Now of course you can do this in another way also, if you consider it like this. Imagine P implies Q and Q implies not P. Now let us simplify this. If we change this to intersections and unions, it is easy. Now remember, if you know that not of P implies Q is P and not Q. Okay? Not of P implies Q is same as P and not Q. So let us use that here. So we see we have P implies Q or Q implies not P. Right? So how to simplify this? I take P implies Q as not of P implies Q. So this becomes not of P and not Q. And using De Morgan's laws, this can become not P or Q. The same way, Q implies not P can be simplified as not of Q implies not P, which becomes not of Q and P, right? And then with this not, De Morgan's law, it becomes not Q or not P, which is the same as writing as not P or not Q. So if you combine these two using the AND conjunction, you can write 1 and 2 is not P or Q and not P or not Q. This using the distributive law, if I take not P or common from both, I get Q and not Q. Now Q and not Q is what? Q and not Q is a null set, right? So it is not P or the null set, basically. So not P or the null set becomes just not P. Okay, so you get the same answer, not P. You do it whichever way you'd like. Question number 7. If Z is a complex number satisfying real part of Z, mod of real part of Z plus mod of real imaginary part of Z is 4, then mod Z cannot be. So you see, let us take Z as x plus iy, then the real part is x, imaginary part is y, and the given equation therefore can be written as mod x plus mod y is equal to 4. How would this look like? Now in the first quadrant both are positive, so it will be x plus y is 4. In the second quadrant x will be negative, so it will minus x plus y is 4. Third quadrant both are negative, so it will be minus x minus y is 4. Fourth quadrant both are y is negative, so x minus y is 4. This line is a line with equation which intercepts 4 and 4, 4 comma 0 and 0 comma 4. This line becomes 0 comma 4 and minus 4 comma 0. The same way, if you complete it, you get this nice square. So Z lies on the boundaries of the square. So mod Z cannot be what? So what can mod Z be? See, mod Z, the maximum value, Z is any point here, right? Any point here is Z. So mod Z is the distance of that point from the origin. Now the maximum distance is this. This would be the maximum distance. How much is this? 4 units. So mod Z should always be less than or equal to 4 in this problem. Same way, here it will be 4 again, here it is 4 again, here it will be 4. Everywhere mod Z will be maximum. And the minimum will be the perpendicular to this line, any of these lines. See, these are isosceles right angle triangles, right? 4, 4 and all. So it's very easy to find out how much would be this minimum distance when it is perpendicular. If it is perpendicular, the minimum is 4 sine 45. So mod Z should always be greater than 4 sine 45, and that would be mod Z is greater than or equal to 2 root 2. So therefore I can say mod Z should be between 2 root 2 and 4. Anything beyond this or less than this is not allowed. So now you see this is 2 root 2 itself. So allowed. Root 10, roughly the values, see this is 2.828, right? So mod Z is between 2.828 and 4. Root 10 is 3 point something, 3.1, so it's allowed. This is root 8.5 is also allowed, but root 7 is less than 2.8, right? Root 7 is 2.6 something. So this is not allowed. So mod Z cannot be this number, okay? So basically construct the graph, and from that you say that mod Z can be a maximum of 4 and minimum of this distance. Let us move on to question number 8. A very simple indefinite integral problem. Ln of x minus 1 by x plus 1 by x squared minus 1. This is also x minus 1 into x plus 1, okay? That gives us the clue. So write the numerator as log of x minus 1 minus log of x plus 1 upon the denominator can be x squared minus 1. So if you take the numerator as t, log of x minus 1 minus log of x plus 1, then dt becomes 1 by x minus 1 minus 1 by x plus 1, which is x plus 1 minus x plus 1 by x squared minus 1 dx, or dt is 2 times dx by x squared minus 1, which implies dx by x squared minus 1 is dt by 2. Okay, so this whole thing is dt by 2 and this thing is t. So this becomes integral t into dt by 2, which is 1 by 2 t squared by 2 plus c, or it is, t square by 4 plus c. And what is t square? It is log of x minus 1 minus log of x plus 1 the whole square. Now this numerator can be simplified as x minus 1 by x plus 1 and the whole square plus c. So this gives us option 1 by 4 log x minus 1 by x plus 1 the whole square plus c. Very simple question. Moving on to question number 9. A circle of radius 2 units is touching both the axis and a circle with center at 6, 5. Now a circle of radius 2 units is touching both the axis can mean the circle can be, please consider that this is a circle, or it can be here also, or it can be here, that one is better, or it can be here. Okay, I can't bear seeing this as a circle, so let me correct it a little. Okay. Now which of these four circles would it be? It's a radius 2 and touching the axis, and it also touches a circle with center at 6, 5. Okay. So it's also touching another circle whose center is at 6, 5. So imagine there can be a circle here at 6, 5, and it touches this like this, right? A bigger circle here, or it can touch this one also, or it can touch this one, or it can touch this one. Anything is possible. So now if this circle is this, and we can find the centers easily. If the radius is 2 units, this is 2, 2, this should be minus 2, 2, or this should be minus 2, minus 2, and this should be 2, minus 2. Imagine, in the other case there will be a much bigger circle touching it like this, okay? Now the question they have asked is the distance between the centers. How do you find the distance between centers? Find the distance between the 4 centers and see which would match. Now if you see, all the distances are great. See, the distance between this point and this point would be 8 squared plus 3 squared under root. This would be 8 squared plus 7 squared under root. This would be 4 squared plus 7 squared under root. All would be greater than 8. Okay. So of these 4 distances, I encourage you to find all the 4 distances and check which one would match. This one matches. If we find the distance between these two, it is 6 minus 2 the whole square plus 5 minus 2 the whole square, which becomes 4 squared. So 16 plus 9 under root, which is 5. So 5 units works. You try the other things. For example, the distance, let us say this is C, and I'll call this PQRS, the centers. Now CP is 5. CQ, for example, is going to be square root of 8 squared plus 3 squared. This is not a perfect square. CR is going to be square root of 8 squared plus 7 squared, greater than 8. CS square is going to be square root of 4 squared plus 7 squared, 49 plus 16, root 65. Nothing matches. Okay, so only 5 units this answer matches. So the circle has to be like this, and the center has to be here. So of these 4 circles, it can only be this circle. Question number 10. Cot inverse of 1 by 2, cot inverse of 9 by 2, cot inverse of 25 by 2. You see, all these are square terms, right? Cot inverse of 1 square by 2, cot inverse of 3 square by 2, then it's 5 squared by 2, and so on. Up to nth term would therefore be the nth odd number. It would be 2n minus 1 the whole square on 2. What can we say about this? Okay. Now let us simplify any one particular term. Let us say the rth term, how would it be, and then simplify, and then based on that, let us see if we can come to some nice conclusion. Okay. Anyway, first step is tan inverse. These cot inverses can be converted to tan inverse like 2 by 1 square, then tan inverse of 2 by 3 square, up to tan inverse of 2 by 2n minus 1 the whole square. This is possible. Now take a general term, the rth term here. That would be 2 by 2r minus 1 the whole square. What can we do about this? See, this can be written as, if I expand the denominator, it becomes 4r squared minus 4r plus 1. And since we have nice identities that involve 1 plus something, I am going to write this as 1 plus, take 2r from these two terms, okay? I get 2r minus 2. What is the advantage? See, the numerator can be written as 2r minus 2r minus 2. Correct? 2r minus 2r minus 2 is 2. And the denominator is 1 plus 2r into 2r minus 2. So you see, it is tan inverse of A minus B by 1 plus AB, which is tan inverse of A minus tan inverse of B. So this is tan inverse of 2R minus tan inverse of 2R minus 2. Good. Let me write the whole thing again. That is tan inverse of 2 by 2R minus 1 the whole square. We have decomposed as tan inverse of 2R minus tan inverse of 2R minus 2. Okay. So let's see what happens to all this tan inverse of 2 by 1 square, tan inverse of 2 by 3 squared and all that. Remember, R is equal to 1 here, R is 2 here, and the last term tan inverse of 2 by 2n. Let us write one more term, tan inverse of 2 by 5 square. Last term is 2n minus 1 the whole square. R is equal to 3, and finally R is equal to n in the last one. Okay, so using this can be simplified as, this is not 12, please, it is 1 square. So R is 1, right? So using this I can write as tan inverse of 2 minus tan inverse of 0. And then again here it becomes R is 2. So tan inverse of 4 minus tan inverse of 4 minus 2, 2. Then this becomes the same way, plus tan inverse of 3 times 2 is 6 minus tan inverse of 6 minus 2 is 4. Plus and so on up to the last two terms are going to be tan inverse of 2n minus tan inverse of 2n minus 2. Now you see all these intermediate terms will get cancelled. Inverse of 2, 4, 6 will get cancelled in the next, and all these terms will get cancelled including this, except the tan inverse of 0 and tan inverse of 2n. Tan inverse of 0 we know is 0. So what remains of all this is tan inverse of 2n. Nice, you know? Very interesting problem. So the answer is tan inverse of 2n, option A. Identify and split this technique in a very technical, practical way so that you can bring in tan inverse of A minus B. Question number 11, a determinant based problem. X minus 4 into 2x into 2, okay, all this determinant is A plus bx into x minus A the whole square, the same A here. Then the ordered pair AB is equal to. Evaluate this determinant. How to evaluate? I am replacing R1 by R1 plus R2 plus R3. That is the first step. When you add all this, what do you get? It becomes 5x minus 4, 5x minus 4 and 5x minus 4. And the rest are the same. X minus 4, 2x, 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 x minus 4. Okay. So here take 5x minus 4 common out and then put 1, 1, 1. 2x, x minus 4, 2x. 2x, 2x, x minus 4. Now the next step would be to make these two zeros before expanding this determinant directly. So I would do two more operations. Column 2 replaced by column 2 minus column 1 and column 3 replaced by column 3 minus column 1. So 5x minus 4, 1, 0, this, okay, let me keep this constant here. And if I subtract these two, I get minus x minus 4 and 0 here. This will be 0, 0 and I get minus x minus 4 here. So this determinant is easy, only the diagonal. So it is 5x minus 4 into minus x minus 4 the whole square, which can be written as x plus 4 the whole square, 5x minus 4. Let us write this again here. I get that the determinant is x plus 4 the whole square into 5x minus 4. Right? See, this minus and minus I take common out, and since it is a square it becomes plus. Okay. So compare it with this term here, a plus bx, x minus a the whole square. This is equal to a plus bx, x minus a the whole square. So this term should be this term and this term should be this term. So a is minus 4, matches, right? A is minus 4, here also a is minus 4 and b is 5 is a solution. So minus 4 comma 5 is the ordered pair. and minus 4 comma 5 is option D. So for question number 11, the answer is option D. Very simple. Question number 12 now is an interesting problem. A rectangle with sides 2m minus 1 and 2n minus 1 is divided into squares of unit length. Basically, imagine I have a rectangle and this 2m minus 1 units long and 2n minus 1 units long. So I am dividing it into squares of unit length. M and n, of course, I am assuming to be integers, natural numbers in this case. So imagine it's like this. Now follow the argument carefully. See, if I divide it into 2m minus 1 pieces, there are going to be 2m points here, right? Including the extra one. So 2m points this side and there are 2n points this side. Okay. The number of rectangles that can be formed with both the sides of odd length. Okay. You need to form a rectangle, but it has to have an odd length, like 3 by 1 maybe, or 5 by 3, or it can be 2m minus 1 by 2m minus 1. How many such rectangles can be formed? That is the question. Very interesting question. Now you see, how many rectangles of 1 by 1 can be formed? You have 1, 1, 1, 1. If you count, there are 2m minus 1 here and 2n minus 1 here. So totally 1 point rectangle can be 2m minus 1 into 2n minus 1. How can we generalize that? If I say the length of the rectangle is going to be 2, let us say I minus 1, and breadth is 2j minus 1. Okay, both are odd numbers. Now, if such a rectangle is there, let us say I have a 3 by 1 rectangle. Now you see, this rectangle is uniquely defined by this vertex, right? If this vertex is defined, then you know the other 4 vertices. So where all can this vertex be? This vertex can be from any point from here till here in this region, right? So the first rectangle would start here, such a rectangle, and the last rectangle would be somewhere here. So of these 2m points here, you drop the last 3 points and drop 1 point here. So to get 1 comma 3, sorry 3 comma 1, a rectangle of length 3 comma 1, there are 2m points. Of that you have to drop the last 3 points. You can't use these 3 points, you can only use till here, and of the 2n points you drop 1 point, that is drop this point. So any of these points, from all these points here, you can have a rectangle of this size 3 comma 1. So I can generalize this and say to have a rectangle of length so much, there are 2m minus 2i minus 1 and 2n minus 2j minus 1 rectangles of I comma this length. So now the total would be, sum it up from I is equal to 1, starting from 1 till n, because that would be the largest, and sum it up from I is j is 1 to n. Okay, so let us complete this quickly. What do we get? J is 1 to, how to do summation? See, this summation is independent of j, this summation is independent of I. So I can split this into 2 pieces. So it becomes summation of 2m minus 2i minus 1 from I is equal to 1 to n, and summation j is equal to 1 to n, 2n minus 2j minus 1. Right? Now how to evaluate this summation? 2m here is a constant, right? It is coming m times, so it will become 2m into m minus, this is a summation of odd numbers 1 plus 3 plus 5 up to 2m minus 1. Now we know that this summation, the sum of first m odd numbers is m squared. The same way this is 2n into n minus n squared. So it's going to become 2m squared minus m squared and 2n squared minus n squared, which is m squared into n squared. So the answer is m squared into n squared, option A. Let us move on to question number 13. For a group of 50 male workers, the mean and the standard deviation of their daily wages are 630 and 90 respectively. So there are 50 male workers and their mean is 630 and standard deviation is 90. Let us say variance would be therefore 8100. Now, and for a group of female workers, 40 female workers, these values are 540 and their standard deviation is 60, or I can say this is going to be 3600, the variance. The standard deviation of all these 90 workers is, we have to find the combined standard deviation. So first of all, we'll find the combined mean, because in the end, see, the final standard deviation 1 and 2 combined together, the variance, at least the formula is going to be summation of x squared of the whole set by, that is the whole set 1 2 together, 1 and 2 together, minus the new mean, the whole square. So I have to find this and this. Okay, that will be my procedure. So first let us find x bar 1 and 2. What will be the common mean, total mean, let us say. So first one, let us say n1 is 50, x1 bar is 630. Therefore summation of x for the first set is going to be 50 into 30. How much is that? Or let us say 630 into 50. Let us keep it without multiplying big numbers. n2 is 40 and x bar 2 is 540. This implies summation of all the set that is women is 540 into 40. Therefore total summation 1 and 2 together would be 630 into 540, sorry, into 50 plus 540 into 40. Now the mean would be n1 plus n2. So the new mean is this whole thing divided by 90. And this can be cancelled 7 times here and 6 times here. So 350 plus 240, which is 590. So the mean is 590. Let us try to find what would this number be. So let us go to sigma 1 squared. Sigma 1 squared is going to be summation of x1 squared by n1 minus x bar 1 squared, or this is 90 into 90 is going to be, or plus, if I bring this term here, it is 630 into 630 is summation of x1 squared by n1 is 50. So 90 into 90 into 50 plus 630 into 630 into 50 is my summation of x1 squared, x1 squared. See, I am not multiplying and all, just so if I can see if I can cancel anything else. Similarly, I can write the summation of x2 squared would be its variance into variance, 60 into 60 into that n was 40, and then their mean was only 540 and again n is 40. So this term total x and 1 and 2 whole squared by total n, that is this particular term here, is going to be this plus this by 90. So that can be written as 90 into 90 into 50 plus 630 into 630 into 50 plus 60 into 60 into 40 plus 540 into 540 into 40 upon 90. Now I can cancel 90 from each of these terms. 90 is gone here, 90 becomes 7 here, 60 into 60 is 3600. So together I cancel it and I get another 40 here and another 6 here. Okay, so this gives me 90 into 50. So basically 4500, and then here I have 7 into 630 into 50, and then here I have 1600, and then here I have 6 into 540 into 40. Anyways, there is, I think, no escape beyond this point, so we'll have to evaluate them. How much is this number? Let's just quickly check if we've gone correctly so far. Bring this here and then multiply. Okay, I think we are safe. So let's do 63 times 35. Now this is going to be 15, 1, 20, 31, and then 3, 9, 18. So 5, 0, 1 and 2. So this number is 210500. Okay, this number. I hope I am not making any mistakes. This is 105, 210. Oh, sorry. See, already made 2205. Then here this number is going to be 54 times 24, and this is 96,129. So this is 1296 with 2 zeros. So the total is, there is a 4500, there is a 220,500, 220,500 and 1,96,000 and 1,600 here. So this all would give me 22, 2, so 10, 16, 1, that makes it 5 and 3. So 3, 5, 6, 200 is my this term. So the variance, the new variance is going to be, I got this whole term, so this term 356200 minus the new mean squared, right? Basically I'm substituting it here. I got this term and the new mean is 590 squared. So 590 squared also has to be computed. 59 9s are 81, 8, 9 5s are 45, 53. 5 9s are 45, 4, 29. So this would give me 1, 8, 14 and 3. So this is 356200, 348100. So 001, 4, 8 and 0. So sigma 1 2 is going to be square root of 8100, which is 90. At least we get a nice and round number. So the answer is 90, option D. So very simple problem, though the calculations are a bit messy with all the crazy numbers that they have given us. Let's move on to question number 14. Limit x tends to 0, a minus n into nx minus tan x times sin nx by x squared is equal to 0, where n is a non-zero real number. Then a is equal to, so n is non-zero, we have to find what is a. Very simple limit this in data. If you notice that I can split the 2 like this, minus tan x, I keep the by x here and then I put sin nx by x separately. And this can be done, right? I'm just splitting the two product and x here. And here I can add and multiply another n so that I know this becomes 1. So further, let's move further. This bracket itself can be split into a minus n into x by x minus tan x by x and sin nx by nx into n. Let us apply the limit x tends to 0. Now here this is gone, so this becomes 1. So we know it is a minus n into n minus 1 into here, this also is 1. This limit is 1 basically. This limit is also 1. So I have only n here. And they said this whole limit is equal to 0, so I put this equal to 0. I have to solve for A. Now this gives me that n is equal to 0, but n they have said it's not 0, n is a non-zero number. So I have A minus n into n minus 1 is 0. Or since I am solving for A, I can write A minus n into n is 1. A minus n is 1 by n. A is n plus 1 by n. So A is n plus 1 by n, option D. Very simple limit based problem. Moving on to question number 15. For the function f of x is e power x cos x belong to 0 to 2 pi alone, the slope of the tangent at any point on the curve of the function is minimum at. So the function which has to be minimized is the slope of the tangent. Slope of the tangent is nothing but f dash of x. F dash of x is e power x if I keep cos x constant and differentiate e power x, and if I differentiate cos x keeping e power x, I get a minus sin x. So this let us take as some function of x, s of x, slope of x, let us say. Now where is s maximum or minimum? Where is s minimum? So if I have s of x is this function, to find minimum of this, find s dash of this function, put it equal to 0. So if I differentiate this, I get e power x cos x minus e power x sin x, and if I differentiate these two terms, I get, keep sin x constant, differentiating e power x, you'll get the same thing, and then if you keep e power x constant and differentiate sin x, you get cos x with the same minus here. So this leads to cancelling both, and I get minus 2 e power x sin x. Okay, this is s dash of x. Now for minimum or maximum, s dash of x should be 0, so minus 2 e raised to x sin x should be 0. E raised to x is always positive, not 0, except at minus infinity, but that is not in the domain. Sin x is 0, implies that x can be 0, pi or 2 pi. Among these values, it can be 0, pi or 2 pi. So now we have to find which of these three will give the minimum, right? We are looking at the minimum case. How to find that? Let us see how the function would vary. That is this s dash of x. Imagine in the region 0 to pi. Okay, let me draw it. Let us say this is 0, this is pi, this is 2 pi. S dash of x I got as minus 2 e power x sin x. Now I don't know what is going to happen beyond this, but here I know in 0 to pi sin is positive, so the whole term is going to be negative, and here pi to 2 pi sin x is negative and the whole thing will become positive. So at pi the function becomes negative to positive, right? So that is s dash of x becomes negative to positive. What does that mean? It means that the slope is decreasing and then increasing. So you get a minimum. This is the first derivative test for maxima and minima. Therefore, at x is equal to pi, there is a minimum. Okay? Or if you don't want this, you try the second derivative and show it is equal to, you can try the second derivative of this, s double dash of x, which is minus 2 e power x sin x if you keep it. And then if you differentiate sin x, you get minus 2 e power x cos x. In this, if you put s double dash of 0, 0 would make it 0 here and minus 2, so you get a maximum. S double dash of 2 pi would give me minus 2 e power 2 pi, this becomes 0, this remains, so another maximum. But s dash of pi on the other hand, s double dash of pi would be minus 2 e power, this becomes 0 anyway, pi, and this term remains minus e power pi into minus 1, which is 2 e power pi, which is greater than 0. These are less than 0. So this is the minimum point. So at x is equal to pi, there is a minimum. So that is option A, x is pi is the minimum. Question number 16. In a workshop there are 5 machines and the probability that any one of them to be out of service on a particular day is 1 by 4. So probability it fails, let us say f, is 1 by 4. So probability that it is okay, that is works, is 3 by 4. If the probability that at most 2 machines will be out of service on the same day is something, then K is equal to what? At most 2 machines will be out of service. So you consider this out of service as a success probability, and this you can consider as a failure probability. Success is it should be out of service. And they are saying at most 2, which means 0 out of service or 1 out of service or 2 out of service maximum. For 0 to be out of service, this you know is the binomial and distribution, which says if probability of getting R successes is NCR P power R Q power N minus R. So for 0, since we have 5 machines, in our case N is 5, probability of X is 0 or probability of X is 1 or probability of X is 2. You can compute as 5C0, success power 0, failure power 5. Then 5C1, success power 1, failure power 4. 5C2, success power 2, failure power 3. Now they have said that the final answer is 3 by 4 raised to 3 into K. So from these 3 terms, separate 3 by 4 raised to 3, and whatever remains is K. That is 5C0, 3 by 4 square, because this is 1 anyway. 5C1, 1 by 4 into 3 by 4, and then 5C2, 1 by 4 square. So this is 3 by 4 the whole cube. 5C0 is 1, so this is 9 by 16 plus 5C1 is 5 into 3 by 16, and 5C2 is 10 into 1 by 16. So the net is 3 by 4 the whole square on 9 plus 15 plus 10, which is 34. 34 by 16, which can be simplified as 17 by 8. Therefore, that constant that multiplies 3 by 4 the whole cube everywhere is 17 by 8. 17 by 8 is option A. 17 by 8. 16 option A. Okay, very simple problem. Binomial theorem, binomial distribution. Point of intersection of the lines R is equal to this and R is equal to this is very simple. Equate the x, y and z coordinates. If you equate the x coordinates, you see here it is 7 and here it is 2s, right? So the x coordinate here will be 7 plus 2s. In this line it is going to be 3 plus t. Okay, this would give me 2s minus t is minus 4. The next equation is 10 plus 3s is equal to 5 plus 2t. So this would give me 3s minus 2t is minus 5. And the third equation, which is not necessary because we can solve from here, but we can use for verification. So I am going to write it down. 13 plus 4s is 7 plus 3t. Okay. So let us solve these two. If I solve these two, how would I do? Let's say 1 and 2. 2 times 1. So 2 can be written like that. What I mean is 2 times equation 1. So 2 into 1 will be 4s minus 2t is minus 8, and 2 you write it straight away, 3s minus 2t is minus 5. Clear? So this, when you subtract, is s, these terms are cancelled, and I would get s is equal to minus 3. Now this substituted here would give me t is equal to minus 2. in any of these equations, we get t is equal to minus 2. Now we can check if this is correct by substituting here. This would give me s is minus 3, t is minus 2. Put it here. In this point alone, I get 13 minus 12 is equal to, here I get 7 minus 6. So they match, 1 is equal to 1. So the point is, you found the point of intersection. That point can be found by substituting them either here or here. Put s here or put t here. If I put s here, the point 7 plus 2s, 10 plus 3s, 13 plus 4s becomes 7 minus 6, 10 minus 9, 13 minus 12, which is 1, 1, 1. Or in terms of ijk, it is I plus j plus k. So that is option B. You can choose this point also. It will be 3 minus 2, 5 minus 4, 7 minus 6. Very simple question, finding the point of intersection of two lines. Differential equation. The solution of the differential equation dy by dx plus something is c being a constant is etc. Now see, obviously this 2x plus y being there out means that something has to be done about 2x plus y. Take u as 2x plus y. You will see that du by dx will be 2 plus dy by dx, and that is why this minus 2 is given here. Take this to the other side and rearrange this equation. You put 2 plus dy by dx plus x into 2x plus y is x cube into 2x plus y the whole cube. Now can you see that the whole thing is du by dx plus xu is equal to x cube u cube. Okay. Now divide the whole thing by 3 by x cube basically, so that you can get the form of the linear differential equation. So divide by u cube. Divide by u cube. So 1 by u cube du by dx plus x by u square is x cube. Now we are still not done. Take v is 1 by u square. dv by dx therefore will be minus 2 by u cube du by dx, or du by dx is 1 by u cube of course minus 1 by 2 dv upon dx. So this is minus 1 by 2 dv upon dx. This becomes x into v. Substituting all this here is x cube. Now for sake of simplicity, I am going to multiply by minus 2 throughout, and I get a nice equation dv by dx. If I multiply by minus 2, I get minus 2xv minus 2x cube. Minus 2xv is minus 2x cube. Now this is like p of x and this is like q of x, and we know the solution is v into e power integral p dx is q of x e power integral p dx integral dx, right? So what will be e power integral p dx? E power minus 2x dx. This is e power minus x squared. So solution is v e power minus x squared is equal to q is minus 2x cube e power minus x squared dx. How to evaluate this? Take x squared as t, okay, or you can even take minus x squared as t and see if that gets rid of this negative sign for us. Let us try that. I am taking minus x as c, or let it be like this: x squared is equal to t. So 2x dx can be written as dt. So you see this integral minus 2x cube e power minus x squared dx can be written as, if I split this as minus 2x into x squared, okay, then 2x dx is nothing but this dt, and x squared is t, so it is t e power minus t dt with a minus sign. How to integrate this? Integration by parts. It's all simple integrations, but it is taking a lot of time because there are many steps. So let us see, minus t e power minus t. So now again this uv form, this is u, this is dv. So v is e power minus t by minus 1, which is minus e power minus t. U is t. So the answer is minus of t into minus e power minus t, this is uv, minus integral v, that is minus e power minus t, dt is dt, dv is dt. So this becomes t e power minus t because of the minus, and then here again it becomes plus e power minus t is, the integral is e power minus t by minus 1, that makes it plus, and with this minus and this minus it becomes e power minus t plus c. So with this we have solved. T of course is x squared, so it is x squared e power minus x squared plus e power minus x squared plus c. So the solution is v e power minus x squared is x squared e power minus x squared plus e power minus x squared plus c. Multiply the whole term by e power x squared, I get v is x squared plus 1 plus c e power x squared. And what is v? v is 1 by u squared. And what is u? 2x plus y. Okay, x squared plus 1 plus c e power x squared. So 1 by 2x plus y the whole squared is x squared plus 1 plus c e power x squared is option B. So for question number 18 the answer is option B. Okay, cool. Moving on to question number 19. An easy problem. An ABC are mutually perpendicular vectors having magnitude 1, 2, 3. Then a plus b plus c, box of a plus b plus c, b minus a, c is how much? Okay, how can we write this? This is nothing but, this box is nothing but the first vector cross the second vector dot, right? That is, if I can write this whole thing as a plus b plus c dot b minus a cross c, right? Okay, now here I would get a plus b plus c dot b cross c minus a cross c. Okay, now let's take the dot product with each term. So first a into this and this into this, etc. First is a dot b cross c, then minus a dot a cross c. Later, next b dot b cross c minus b dot a cross c. Of course, then c dot plus c dot b cross c minus a c dot a cross c. Now you see this is going to be box ABC. I am dropping the vector just for convenience. This is box AAC. This is box BBC. This is box minus BAC. This is box CBC. This is minus box CAC. Now all these are 0, right? Because it's two coplanar vectors. So all this is 0 and I have only box of ABC minus box of BAC. Now if I interchange the order here, BCA, I get another minus. So it becomes plus. So this is ABC, or I should have interchanged the order of A and B and got ABC, or 2 times box ABC. Now since all 3 vectors are mutually perpendicular, the angles are all 90 degrees, 90 degrees. That is, this becomes 2a dot b cross c, which will be 2 times mod a mod b mod c, which is 2 into, they have given mod a mod b mod c as 1, 2, 3. So 2 into 1 into 2 into 3, which is 12 units. So the answer is 12, option C. Very simple problem, simplification of vectors. The length of the chord of a parabola x squared is equal to y having equation x minus root 2y plus 4 root 2 is equal to 0 is. Now this parabola is very simple, it passes through the origin and it is open upward, and there is some chord x minus 2y is, let us say this is chord. We have to find the points of intersection, and then if you find the points of intersection you can find the distance. Very simple problem. So let us try to find the point of intersection here. See, the values of y, if you take solve for y and then you get some answers for y. Now y will give you two different values for x. So it's better to solve for x rather than for y. Let us solve for x. So substitute y is equal to something here. You get what I am saying? Because x is unique and y is multiple. For the same y you can have two different x's, and then it becomes difficult to identify which is which. Let us take from the equation for the parabola, y is equal to x squared by 4, and substitute that here in the equation for the line. Correct? Now, if I am to multiply the whole thing by root 2 or 4 root 2, let us say, if I am multiplying everything by, should I need? Okay, just simplify a little bit into 4 root 2 minus this would become 4 into 4 root 2. Okay, so 4 root 2 x minus 4 root 2 into root 2, 4 and 4 gets cancelled and you get 2x squared, and 4 root 2 and 4 root 2 becomes 16 into 2, 32 is 0. Or again divide by 2 a little bit, minus 2 x squared minus 2 root 2 x minus 16 is 0. So what will be the roots? X is plus 2 root 2 plus or minus square root of 2 root 2 square is 8 minus 4 is 4 into 16 would become plus 16. 4 16s are 64 by 2a is 2. So this is 2 root 2 plus or minus root 72 by 2. 2 root 2, 72 is 18 times 4 or 9 times 36 times 2. So 6 root 2 plus or minus 6 root 2 upon 2. So it is 8 root 2 by 2 or minus 4 root 2 by 2. So this can be 4 root 2 or minus 2 root 2. So these are the values. So here it is minus 2 root 2 and here it is x is 4 root 2. So for these values you can find y easily. Y would be, let me write, x is minus 2 root 2 and 4 root 2. Y is x squared by 4. So it will become square of this is 8 by 4, which is 2, or square of this is 16, 32 by 4, which is 8. Okay. So what I get is y is 2 and 8. So the points are minus 2 root 2 comma 2 and 4 root 2 comma 8. So these are the 2 points. Now the length of the chord is just the distance between the points. So distance is square root of 4 root 2 minus of minus 2 root 2. So plus 2 root 2 square plus 6 squared. So this becomes 6 root 2 squared plus 6 squared, which is 72 plus 36, 108, which is 36 into 3 or 6 root 3 units. So the answer is 6 root 3, option A. Okay, simple problem. Just solve for the points of intersection and find the distance. Now let us come to the subjective numericals. The area bounded by the curves y is log x, y is log of mod x, y is mod of log x and mod of log mod. mod x. Let us see how this diagram is going to look. Let this be the x and y axis. You know, log x, y is log x, is basically like this. It comes from minus infinity, crosses the axis at 1, and then it goes on like this. This is log x. How would log of mod x be? Okay, log of mod x means x can be positive or negative. Okay, so even for the negative values of x, you will have a similar thing here, because log x doesn't exist for negative numbers, but log of mod x is the same thing on both sides. So log of mod x would be this, something like this. But log of mod x also includes this branch. The red line also includes log of mod x. Okay, remember that. How would mod of log x be? Mod of log x is the log x curve but fully positive. So it should be this positive part will be the positive part only, and this negative part will become positive. So it should be like this. Okay. Then mod of log of mod x, that is this whole function, the log of mod of log would be, I don't know if, okay, black is a better option. So sorry, let me write what is this green thing. This is mod of log x. And this black thing would be something like this. And it covers all this part also. So the black and the green together is mod ln mod x. If you can recognize that the area is here, then we can do something about it. We can find only one small area and multiply by 4. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'll take the area here, this red area. This is the log x curve. That is the normal log x curve. I'll take this area between 0 and 1 and multiply that by 4 to get the whole area. So this is integral log x dx from 0 to 1. But this is going to cause some trouble. Okay, this area marked here, it is going to cause trouble. Y log x, right? So what I do, I'll convert this problem to y. That is, x can be raising to power y on both sides, e to the power y. X is e to the power y, and it is from minus infinity to 0, right? Y stretches to minus infinity, from there it comes to 0. So the same area can be evaluated as integral e to the power y dy minus infinity to 0. You can evaluate this way or this way. This way is going to be a bit messy, and remember it will give you a negative area, so you have to take a mod. But here this will give you a positive area. It's on the right hand side of the y axis. So this is an easy integral. E power y is e power y only. This becomes 1 minus 0, which is 1. So the area is, total area is 4 times 1, which is 4 units. So the answer is 4 units. You get it? First mark the graphs, and then you find one area and multiply by 4. To evaluate that area, I have converted to e power y. What happens otherwise here? Because integral is going to be x ln x minus x, integration by parts. When I put 1, there is no problem, but when I put 0, this is going to be 0 into log 0, which is 0 into minus infinity, is a mess. You have to find the limit and all that there. So, very simple if you do it with e power y. Question number 22. The number of elements in the set A comma B such that a squared plus b squared is 50. A and b are integers, set of integers is. Now a squared plus b squared is 50, right? So both a and b, the square, sum of squares is 50. We can have only 25 plus 25 is 50 and 1 plus 49 is 50, right? So a can be 5 or minus 5, and at that time b can also be 5 or minus 5. Okay, this is one possibility. Or a can be 1 or minus 1 and b can be 7 or minus 7. and at the same time a can be 7 or minus 7 and b can be 1 or minus 1. So you see here, this means I can have 5, 5, 5 minus 5, minus 5 minus 5, or minus 5, 5. Here I can have the same way, 1, 7, 1 minus 7, minus 1, 7, minus 1, minus 7. Or here I can have 7, 1, 7 minus 1, minus 7, 1, minus 7, minus 1. So 12 points. So 12 elements would be there in the set. So the answer is 12. Very simple. The problem is if you forget that you can, these are ordered pairs, right? A comma B. So if you just think, okay, 7 and 1 and 5 and 5 and then only take the 8, you are at a mistake. Since they are ordered pairs, 7, 1 and 1, 7 are different from each other. Question number 23. Evaluate this integral 0 to 1 by 2, 1 plus root 3 by x plus 1 the whole square, 1 minus x the whole power 6, whole power 1 by 4 dx. Looks crazy, but turns out it's a simple integral. How can we do this? Now, to make use of this part here, the power 4, I do some simplification here. That is, let us keep that 1 plus root 3 out of the whole scenario. The limits also, let us worry about the limits later. Okay, keep the limits 0 to 1 by 2. The denominator is, if I multiply another 1 plus x power 6 and divide by 1 plus x power 6. Okay, and already I have 1 minus x power 6. Now what will happen here? This becomes x plus 1 the whole power 8 and then 1 minus x by 1 plus x to the power 6, the whole to the power 1 by 4 dx and all the integral. So its integral, this can be taken out now, dx by x plus 1 will come out as x plus 1 the whole square and this bracketed term becomes 3 by 2. 6 by 4 is 3 by 2. It still seems mysterious, but how it works is, if you take this 1 minus x by 1 plus x as t and find what is dt. Dt would be 1 plus x the whole square and then you put 1 plus x and differentiate the numerator, which is minus 1, and then you put minus and put the numerator itself and then differentiate the denominator, which is 1. So this becomes minus 1 minus x minus 1 plus x, and now you discover that this is minus 2 by 1 plus x the whole square, of course the dx. So dx upon 1 plus x squared, which is what we have here, becomes this dt, right? So dt by minus 2, minus 1 by 2 dt. So this whole integral is minus 1 by 2 dt upon t power 3 by 2. Now we need to change the limits also. The limits are, t is 1 minus x by 1 plus x, right? So when t is equal to 0, x is equal to 0, t is 1. When x is 1 by 2, t is 1 by 2 by 3 by 2, which is 1 by 3. So the limits are, it's going to be 1 to 1 by 3, which I can invert as 1 by 3 to 1 with the 1 by minus bound, dt power 3 by 2. Now this integration is t power minus 3 by 2 dt integral, I have, excuse me, yeah, so 1 by 3 to 1 and I have the half still. So this is t power minus 1 by 2 by minus 1 by 2 and I still have the 1 by 2 and this 1 by 3 to 1. So cancel this, I still get a minus. So minus 1 by root t from 1 by root 3, 1 by 3 to 1. This becomes minus 1 minus of minus 1 by root of 1 by 3. this becomes minus 1 plus root 3 or root 3 minus 1. Now remember, we had dropped this 1 plus root 3 in the beginning. So now the actual answer is that 1 plus root 3 into this root 3 minus 1. This is like a plus b into a minus b. So a squared minus b squared, root 3 squared minus 1, which is 3 minus 1, 2. So the answer to this whole integral is 2. Very nice problem. See, there is also the other way of doing this. What is the other way? You take only 1 minus x and multiply it here. You can make it x squared minus 1, the whole square, and then you can get 1 minus x the whole power 6. This is another technique I mean. Okay. So here this can be written as square root of x squared minus 1 power 4, sorry, and 1 minus x. So you can simplify this whole term as this, and then you can take x is equal to something like secant or cosecant, or if you write it as 1 minus x squared, even better, because it's from 0 to 1 by 2, 1 minus x squared, you can take x is equal to sine theta and you can reduce it and you get the same answer. Last but one problem, the summation 1 to infinity of 1 by k plus 2 root k plus k into root of k plus 2 is equal to something, and then what happens to all this? Let us try to rationalize this. That is, it is 1 by k plus 2 root k plus k into root k plus 2 multiplied by, I might multiply by k plus 2 root k minus k into root k plus 2 and divide by the same, k plus 2 root k minus k into root k plus 2. Now what would this give me? This would give me k plus 2 times root k minus k into root of k plus 2. The denominator is a squared minus b squared. So this squared is k plus 2 the whole squared into k minus this. So k squared into k plus 2. So this becomes in the numerator k plus 2 root k minus k root of k plus 2 upon k squared plus 4 and all, right? So keep one k common, and what I get is k squared plus 4k plus 4 minus, I kept 1k common, so k into k will be k squared and 2k. See here, this would again result in k squared gone. This and this would give me, the numerator remains the same, root k minus k root k plus 2, and the denominator becomes k into 2k plus 4. If I take 2 out, this becomes like, if I separate the terms, both terms, k plus root k, k plus 2 root k by k into, I'm just taking the 2 common out, I get k into k plus 2, and here I'll get the same thing, like 2 into k, k plus 2. So you see k plus 2 and k plus 2 are gone, and k are gone, and I get, if I take 1 by 2 common, this is 1 by root k and this is 1 by root k plus 2. So each term is of this form, okay? So that summation k is 1 to infinity can be written as 1 by root k minus 1 by root k plus 2, okay? And the half I am going to put it out here. Now how will this look like? This is going to look like 1 by 1 minus 1 by root 3, excuse me. If I put 1, root 3, plus 1 by 2 minus 1 by 4, then 1 by 3, when I put 3, root 3, root 5, then when I take 4 minus root 6, and so on. Now if you see, this minus 1 by root 3, 1 by root 3, minus 1 by root 4, 1 by root 4, 1 by 5, and 5 would get cancelled here in the next term, 6, and so on will get cancelled. Everything would get cancelled till infinity, and all that would remain is 1 by 2 into 1 plus 1 by root 2. This is all that will remain. This can be written as root 2 plus 1 by 2 root 2, or root 2 plus root 1 by root 8. Okay. Now you see, they have said that this is equal to root a plus root b by root c. That's why I wrote it in that form. All are natural numbers and all less than 15. Okay. So this is given as root a plus root b by root c. Now all these are natural numbers. I cannot have any other combination. Even if I multiply by root 2, the next product can be root 4 plus root 2 by root 16. Also is valid. It will be the same thing, but this will be greater than 15 will be violated here. Okay. So this combination is correct. And let me take a as 2, b as 1, c as 8. So a plus b plus c is 11. So the answer to this question is 11. Very simple problem. Simplify this, rationalize the denominator, and then you get a fractional form which gets cancelled. Final problem. Consider the equation log of root 2 sin x 1 plus cos x is equal to 2. Then in this range, if the sum of roots is p pi by q, where GCD of p and q is 1, that is, they don't have any common factor, value of p square plus q square is how much? Now, before even starting, what can we say about whenever you have log of x base y is equal to z? Z can be positive or negative, can be anything. But x can't be negative. X has to be always greater than 0. It can't even be equal to 0, because that would give minus infinity. And y has to be greater than 0, greater than or equal to. It cannot be 1 basically. Y, let us say, cannot be 1. Okay. It can be any number. But y cannot be 1, because 1 to the power anything is 1 only, right? So it cannot be 1. So based on these conditions, we can say 1 plus cos x should always be greater than 0, and root 2 sin x should not be 1, or sin x should not be 1. That is, x should not be pi by 4, 3 pi by 4, all that. Okay, this, okay. And 1 plus cos x should be greater than 0. Now let us actually solve this and see what happens. If you take power root of 2 sin x on both sides, then you will get 1 plus cos x here, and on that side root of 2 sin x the whole squared, which is 2 sin squared x. This can be written as 1 plus cos x is 2 into 1 minus cos squared x, or this can be written as 1 plus cos x minus 2 plus 2 cos square x is 0, or 2 cos square x 2 cos squared x of plus cos x minus 1. This is 2 cos x plus 1. How will we do it, right? 1 plus cos, 1 minus cos square x. So minus 1 minus 2 cos square x, and this side is 2 cos x. So it will be 2 cos x. It will be like this: 2 cos squared x, 2 cos x minus 1 into cos x plus 1 is 0. Okay. Now this, we already know 1 plus cos x is greater than 0. So this can't be 0. So only 2 cos x can be 1, or cos x can be 1 by 2. And in this range, cos x is 1 by 2 can mean x is pi by 3 or minus pi by 3. Now at minus pi by 3, sin x would become negative, and this base cannot be negative. No, y should also be greater than 0. Positive, it has to be positive but not 1. So this base cannot be negative. Therefore, x is pi by 3 is the only solution. There is only one root, which is pi by 3. And this they have said is equal to p pi by q. Therefore, p is 1 and q is 3. They have no common factors. So the value they have asked of p square plus q square is 1 square plus 3 square, which is 10. So the answer to this is 10. Okay. This brings us to the conclusion of NTA test paper number 12. See you again with NTA test paper number 13. This is Santosh Jood from Parthnang Mathematics Institute, Ahmedabad.